So, a conversation regarding the flying spaghetti monster in Russell's teapot was recently brought to my attention, and it got me thinking regarding the probability arguments around God's existence. I don't think those are very good arguments. Somebody says, oh, what's the probability of Russell's teapot versus the probability of God existing? Um, I think that Russell's teapot falls into the category of relativistic probability, whereas you're talking about a being such as God, that it doesn't make any sense to talk about what's the probability that God exists. I mean, where do you even start with that? Um, I, I have to admit that I do respect ontological arguments um, more than I do those probabilistic ones. I'm not a big fan of teleological arguments that try to say, because of how the world is designed, so apparently perfect or as such to support life or whatever the argument is, therefore God exists or God is likely to exist. I think these are silly arguments. I don't think there's any basis to go with that. Because what's the implication that, oh, if there wasn't these perfect circumstances allegedly, that therefore God wouldn't exist? I don't know. I just find it to be all wishy-washy. So I don't put much stock in those kind of arguments. Um, everybody's different. Theists can have their own arguments, and I'm not necessarily going to agree with everybody. Personally, while I said I do respect ontological arguments a little bit more, I don't know that I've encountered one that I can fully say I support it and this is the perfect argument. I don't even know if there's really a perfect argument for the existence of God. My experience for why I'm a theist is, I don't know, I don't want to say it's anecdotal, but in some sense it is. I didn't have a vision of God. I didn't have somebody cured of cancer in my family or anything like that. I have no story of that nature. I was approaching it more from a philosophical perspective. Um, and I grew up being primarily atheist, and then later in my early teens into my 20s, I started thinking about the the concept of God as a philosophical idea, and then I developed my understanding by reading texts that were outside of the range of what I had been exposed to growing up. So, of course, like most people, I was exposed to Christianity from certain family members, and then later I got into more Eastern stuff, some Taoism, some Buddhism, and all the way until I was introduced to Vedic texts, particularly of Vaishnav origin, Hare Krishna text, to be perfectly honest. And I think it's a lot of interesting stuff there. But anyway, I'm kind of digressing into that. Let me just say that when it comes to the existence of God, to me it started as more of a very general idea of saying that there is an absolute, that there's something that serves as the foundation of the relative world of apparent fleeting forms. And for me to suggest that, oh, but that absolute is devoid of intelligence or personality or all these things seems limiting. Like, why wouldn't it make sense instead to say that it is the reservoir of all things that manifest in the world, that nothing that comes out into the world is greater than that absolute from which it came. It doesn't make sense to me to say that there was a void and then it serves as the absolute, and then out of the Big Bang or whatever you call it, out of the universe coming into existence, all these things just happened. They just popped into existence. It was their emergent properties that just happened. To me, that doesn't. I don't follow that at all. And maybe I'm missing something, and that's fine. And we'll probably have a discussion about it eventually. But that's kind of where I'm coming from. It's really general and vague, I know. And again, I'm doing this video without a script and just off the cuff. So hopefully this one's a little bit more watchable. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and sign out for now, and I'll see you soon.